Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is nutrition, and the title is Your Food is Telling on You. So, probably something that might freak everyone out. But this is a kind of a fun topic. I was talking with somebody recently about this, and they just thought it was pretty cool, and it brought to mind the idea to make a podcast about it. So, I was talking with a client, and we were doing a workout, and they come in the mornings, and they had come in kind of peppy, high energy, kind of feeling good. However, as we started working out, I could actually smell a difference in their sweat. So this had been somebody I've been working with for a regular, say 3, 4, 5 months, something like that. And you kind of get an idea of somebody as a trainer in regards to kind of the normalcies of their energy patterns, their sweat patterns, and yes, even smell. So it doesn't always mean body odor, but they were high energy, like I said. They were starting to kind of crash earlier in the workout than normal, and I could actually smell alcohol through their sweat. Now, I have a very sensitive nose to alcohol, so I'll admit that. But as we were kind of working out, they were kind of low in energy, and I could tell that it most likely they had a liquid-based sugar recently in their diet, which would be wine. And so I asked them, I said, "Hey, did you eat this morning?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I had this, this, and this," and they named like the super healthiest stuff in the world. And then I said, "Well, what did you have last night?" And they said, "Oh, I had a good dinner. Let's just say, for example, like chicken and vegetables, and then, that was kind of my dinner." And I said, "Oh, yeah, we're kind of sitting there a little bit." And I said, "Did you have anything after dinner?" And they hadn't really put it together yet that I was going to keep asking questions until I got the answer I wanted, because I'm a jerk. But and they said, "Oh, I don't think so." And it kind of like a little bit quiet. And I said, "Well, you're kind of dying on energy faster than normal, and typically that means that instead of like a healthy, slow digesting food, we most likely would have had a sugary type food." And they said, "Oh no, I didn't eat anything at night. After my meal, after my supper, I just, I didn't have any snacks or anything." And I said, "Well, sugar comes in different forms, so sometimes there's liquid sugar." And they kind of like hee-hawed around a little bit. And then eventually they admitted, they said, "Yeah, I know I've been doing well on my diet, but I just kind of freaked out last night. This, and this was happening. And I ended up having some wine." And I didn't ask any of the questions, and I didn't talk to them afterwards to the point of trying to make them feel bad or say they shouldn't have drank the wine. I needed to know why they were not having the best energy in their workout, so that way we could address it and correct it in the future. So why that's important is because since they weren't performing to their best, we weren't going to get the best of results from the training. So they came to the gym, they were going to put an hour of effort in, but instead of our normal, say, 10 units of, hard work and adaptation, we were only having enough energy, sustainable energy, for like 6 or 7 units. And that's not like a good thing that we want to repeat on a regular basis. So the point of me asking was to see if we could identify what it was, and if what it was could be corrected or modified or changed or kind of controlled in some way. So the client ended up having a family-based issue, and they were having a lot of emotional stress over it. So we ended up talking about it, kind of like discussing the ways in which we could adjust their training and nutrition to where they could still feel successful towards their goals, but make leeway for the stress and kind of the emotional pains that they were feeling at the time. So it was a good conversation in the sense that, probably helped them a little bit to talk about it, get it off their chest a little bit. But we also identified ways in which they could correct if they drank the wine, maybe even having just somebody give them recognition for the pain and struggle they were going through. Maybe they wouldn't have needed as much therapy through wine, that kind of stuff. So it was interesting that due to their energy levels and their sweat pattern and their smell, that I could tell something was off in their food. So that's the title of Your Food is Telling on You. So I've been being a personal trainer. I started personal training. People paid me for it since I was 18 years old. So I'm 36 now, so that's 18 years of being a personal trainer. And I've had well over 1,000 clients, way over that. And I used to teach at the local university for 7.5 years. So I've worked with a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people move. I've seen a lot of people sweat. Okay. And it is interesting that there are predictable sweat patterns based on what somebody has as their pre-workout food. Now, what food they had counting as the pre-workout depends on what they had and the digestion rate of what they had. So, for example, fats digest very slowly. So, a fat-based meal that they had maybe even 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours ago can actually still impact the workout at that moment. Whereas if they have a sugary-based food, that is processed and gone in maybe, say, 2 hours. So if they had a sugary-based food, say 8 hours ago, it's not going to show up as much unless they don't eat the correct foods around that sugary food and or between the sugary food and the workout. So sometimes people will have a sugary food, they'll feel guilty, so therefore they skip their next meal, and then you can see the effects of that in the workout. So what I thought would be fun would be to discuss the sweat patterns and the smell patterns that you'll see in people when they exercise based on the food they ate. So if someone, their pre-workout food, and let's just say this is the meals that contribute to the energy that they have when they walk through the door. So like I said, if they had a fatty-based food meal, like say 6 hours before, then they had really good carb-based food, say 2 hours before, and then right at the time of the workout, they had like a glucose-based thing, like Gatorade or something. They're going to be freaking perfectly fueled. They're going to come into the gym and destroy their workout. So they're going to do very well, and all 3 of those meals would have contributed to how good they felt at the time of the workout. So when we say sweat patterns based on pre-workout foods, it isn't the only exclusive to the meal right before the workout. It can actually be layered upon with multiple meals before the workout if the multiple meals before the workout are timed correctly. So when I work with athletes for maximum performance and maximum adaptation to their performance. So for example, maximum performance might be a strength athlete, but a maximum adaptation to their performance would be like a bodybuilder or aesthetic athlete. So they want to maximize their performance so they can maximize their adaptation, which is the result of muscular growth. So they want to perform well, but the performance isn't necessarily the marker of success. It's how significant and how well they adapt to the performance. So when I have athletes with those goals, we absolutely pay attention to layering the meals so that way they have all of the building blocks necessary for maximum peak performance. So it's extremely, extremely important. And if those are their goals and they're a pretty serious athlete, they're not going to mind creating their lifestyle to do that. And it's not a crazy lifestyle. It's just, hey, the meal about 4 to 6 hours before you work out, make sure you have proteins and healthy fats. The meal 1 to 2 hours before you work out, make sure it's very lean protein and very lean carbs. And then right at the time of the workout, have some sugary-based liquid. That simple alone pattern, okay, will absolutely help somebody have best energy, rather than, them having like some random ass food 6 hours before they work out, and then all of a sudden before they right before the workout they freak out and say, oh man, I forgot to do a pre-workout. Let me just drink a shitload of caffeine and just have high cortisol levels and run my entire body off caffeine rather than healthy food. So that's typically what's more likely to happen with people, and then they wonder why their performance is absolute garbage. It's because your freaking food was absolute garbage. So if you do a piss poor job of fueling yourself before the workout, you're going to have a piss poor workout. Duh. Okay? So it kind of makes sense. So Let's look at this, the sweat patterns based on pre-workout foods. So if someone, their main source of pre-workout food energy is a sugary liquid, they're going to have high energy at the start of the workout, but they're going to sweat very fast compared to kind of like a normal sweat pattern for that person. Everybody's different, but they will sweat faster if they have sugary liquids as their main source. So high energy, they're going to sweat fast and they're going to crash fast. And they're going to have no sustainability unless the sugary liquid came with caffeine. So let's say sugary liquids such as Gatorade. Then they're going to have high energy, fast sweat, fast crash, no sustainability because their body's going to burn through the Gatorade and have nothing left. Maybe their sugary liquid is an energy drink that has maybe 60 grams of sugar plus like 240 milligrams of caffeine. Well, they're going to have the high energy. They're going to sweat fast. They're going to crash fast. But they actually are going to have sustainability simply due to the effects of the caffeine. During that time, when the sugar's worn off and they're running off caffeine, they're going to raise cortisol levels. Then they're going to feel more stressed, have sleep problems. Okay, they're not going to recover as well from their workout because their body's going to be stressed. So it's not good to run off of caffeine because it increases kind of like anxiety and stress and that nervous energy of the body because you're actually running it off of a fake fuel rather than good healthy fuel. Okay, so then let's say like if they didn't have sugary liquids, maybe they had sugary solid foods. So maybe somebody before the workout they had skim milk and like a box of Lucky Charms. So I used to work with a person who one of their pre-workout meals was an entire box of Frosted Flakes and milk. Now, they were a very, very high endurance-based athlete. So they were going to burn through those calories and infinitely more throughout the rest of the day. But that would be an example of a sugary solid food, would be like Frosted Flake cereal. Okay? So they're going to have high energy. They're going to sweat fast. They are going to crash fast if their meals before that meal aren't supporting sustainable energy, such as healthy fats. So the athlete I worked with that we did the Frosted Flakes, they had a healthy fat-based meal before that one. So they already had a baseline of healthy fats being digested in their system. And then the Frosted Flakes was just a nice big kind of burst of energy that they could use right away in the workout. So without that high fat content meal as their baseline of energy, they're going to have high energy, fast sweat, fast crash, and very little sustainability, but some. So you'll have a little more sustainability after your crash with sugary solid foods than you would with sugary liquids, but neither one of those are going to be very good long duration sources of energy. Once you crash, you're pretty much going to have to be done. Okay? And again, this is in the absence of caffeine. But let's say the person has healthy carbs. So non-sugary based, maybe they have some complex carbs like oats, sweet potato, white potatoes, breads, bagels, pasta, whatever the hell. All the stuff that isn't like just sugary garbage candy crap. Okay? But they had healthy carbs, but they didn't have enough. So what you'll see is they have pretty good energy. They have a normal sweat pattern of onset. So if they normally don't sweat until 25 minutes into the workout, that'll still be the same, okay? Whereas with the sugary-based stuff, they might sweat like in 10 minutes rather than 15 or 20. So sugary stuff, they're going to have a faster sweat onset. Whereas with healthy carbs but not enough carbs, they're still going to start sweating when they normally do. However, they won't sweat as much as they normally do. And the reason why is carbohydrates, when digested, help store water in the body. So if you do not have enough carbohydrates, you will not have a lot of water in your body. Therefore, you won't be able to produce as much sweat. So they're going to have a normal sweat pattern onset, but they're not going to have as much sweat as they normally would. They're going to still have a fast crash because even though they had healthy carbs, there wasn't enough of it. So I can put the right fuel in my gas tank, but if I only put a quarter of a tank in, then I'm not going to have a lot of fuel, right? So they're still going to have a fast crash, and they're still going to have pretty much no sustainability. Because once the gas tank is empty, the machine shuts off, right? So again, in the absence of caffeine, they're going to feel that crash, and they're not going to be able to continue to push through that crash. So even if you eat healthy foods, you have to make sure you eat enough. So that way you can have sustainable long duration energy appropriate for what type of activity level you're trying to do. Now, What about healthy fats too close to the workout? People will do this all the time. They actually feel like they have no energy because the food hasn't been digested yet, because fats take too long to digest like that. Okay, like say within like 20, 30 minutes of the workout. Fats have to be eaten like 90 to 120 minutes away from the workout to even start to maybe be available for the body. Now, there are some examples of like medium chain triglycerides, that like an oil that you can use like as an intra workout or pre workout, yada yada yada. Okay, lovely that we all know that, but who the hell is going to drink medium chain triglyceride, as part of a pre workout drink? Now, I've done that before, okay, and it kind of sort of maybe worked, but it wasn't as good as just regular old carbs. But you could argue that maybe it would help with like fat loss. I don't know that that's a really productive argument, okay, but I have tried it. But traditional normal fats that most people would eat who don't have a clue what the hell I'm talking about when I say medium chain triglycerides, they are going to eat fats that take a lot longer to digest than just say 20, 30, 40 minutes. So since they haven't digested yet, they're not in our blood system and they're not available for us to use. So they're going to have no energy even though they ate food. They're going to feel bogged down and just kind of blah because that food is sitting in their belly. And once you start exercising, the body has to kind of decide, where do I kind of send more priority of effort towards? So even if I want to digest, even if the body wants to digest that food, you're moving the muscles around, so it has to pay attention to the muscles. It has to fuel them. It has to do some work for the muscles. So your ability to digest food will be lessened because your tasks have increased on the body. So they're going to have no energy. They're going to feel bogged down. They're going to have normal kind of sweat pattern. They're not going to have a crash of energy because they're going to have no freaking energy to begin with. And they're going to have no sustainable energy because they had no freaking energy to begin with. So, even if we eat healthy carbs but not enough, we don't have great workouts. Even if we eat healthy fats but we eat them at the wrong time, we don't have great workouts. So it's very important to not only know what eating healthy is, but also the correct timing. So sugary liquids at the right time are the right fuel source. So like we said, the best pattern is kind of like that 4 to 6 hours away, eat a meal of proteins and fats. About like 2-ish hours away, eat a meal of protein and carbs. And then right at the start of the workout, about maybe 20 minutes to the start of the workout or at the start of the workout, you drink some sugary liquids like Gatorade. That's typically going to be the best fueling pattern for most people. Now, what if you work out first thing in the morning? Okay, so now you're special and you compensate everything. Okay, so you would still want to have a good meal the night before. So typically what happens where people make the mistake if they work out in the morning is they skimp out on their calories the night before and eat a very small meal. So then when they wake up, they have freaking empty gas tanks. They have nothing. So even if they try to drink some sugary liquids, they'll have a little bit of energy, which is great, and they should do that. But if you were to have a meal of protein and sustainable fats that took maybe 6, 8, 10 hours to digest, which is not going to be a lean meat, okay, but something like steak. So if you can have like red meat and vegetables the night before, you're going to have more sustainable energy when you wake up because that red meat is still digested. Whereas if you have like, say, a white fish, okay, like tilapia in vegetables, that tilapia is gone in about 2 or 3 hours, and there was really no fat in it anyhow. So you have to pick the right fat source to be digesting throughout the night. So that way when you wake up, there is some energy there. And then also there's a science behind filling glycogen stores. So typically we only have to worry about carbs, about making us fat, if we overeat carbs. But there actually is a correct amount of carbs that you can eat that will fill your glycogen stores but not make you fat. So you can actually preload carbs the night before the workout if you have a correct amount for the day of, like what you did that day leading into the final meal. You have a correct amount that'll lead you into the morning. And then you would have a sugary-based liquid at that time of the morning workout, and all of a sudden you do well. So typically I'll have people ask, like once they hear this kind of stuff, they're like, oh, what should I do? And I'm like, you're not doing the things you should do right now correctly. How the hell are you now going to step up and do this extra special stuff correct? So this stuff is helpful to know, but don't get lost in the minor details. So you want to make sure, like, so for example, if somebody says, "Oh wow, okay, having Gatorade before my workout will be great for energy. I'm gonna do that." Well, hold up. We said you had to have the fatty-based meal 4 to 6 hours before, and the carb-based meal 2 hours before, and then the sugary drink even adds excellent, like extra excellence to that combination. But if you skip the first two meals and you just have a bunch of Gatorade right before the workout, yeah, you'll have some energy, but you're not going to have anywhere near what you should have. So don't pick and choose parts, do all of it correct. Okay? So, there's just some cool information I think that's kind of fun for people to know. Is so from a trainer's point of view, based on how you sweat, I actually know what you ate. So when you want to give me some a little bit of BS there, okay, on your dietary reports, I already know what you ate. So I always laugh with people as if I'm asking a question, that's because I know there's an answer. So if I ask the question, I go, "Hey, what did you have for dinner last night?" That means that I know there was something in the dinner last night that was abnormal, and that's what I'm asking what it is. So sometimes people will ask, like, "Well, what'd you have for dinner last night?" And they'll go, "Oh, the usual." And I'm like, "No, because I wouldn't be asking if it was the usual." So it's kind of like a funny thing is when you ask the questions and then somebody just doesn't realize you're asking for a reason. So it's a little comical. So the last thing I want to cover real quick is just the smells based on foods. So if somebody does have alcohol, especially wine, you can smell that when they start sweating. You also can smell difference of people when they eat fast food. So when people eat a lot of fast food, they actually have higher degrees of body odor. And then also vegans and like vegetarians, they tend to smell like vinegar or ammonia because of the types of foods and stuff that they eat. So I can actually tell what someone's diet is based from, their normal everyday diet, based on the smell of them. So this makes me laugh because I have had people tell me before that when this topic has come up and I can tell what people eat based on their smell, almost everybody looks at me and they kind of look at that like weird look and they go, "You've been doing this for too long." So, but it makes it fun. So it's fun to know these things because it helps me help them. So, like I said, is if I have a client and I can identify that they've been having some alcohol, we can talk, and if there's an emotional issue, we can figure it out like that. If somebody's eating a lot of fast food and I can smell that, I can figure out with them, like, how do we figure out better meal timing? How do we figure out meals on the go that are maybe healthier than, getting a Big Mac, something like that. So it's helpful to know these things so I can better help the person. That's what I love knowing this stuff about, is because you can help somebody live a healthier and happier life just by knowing something as weird as what people smell like when they work out. Cool? Okay. So just remember that what you eat absolutely does affect your performance. If it affects your performance, it'll affect your results. So that's important to know. And then also what you eat affects your mood. If you don't feel good during a workout, you're just not going to have a great experience from it. You're not going to have a good endorphin release. You're not going to have a good mental kind of me time experience if you're not feeling good while you're working out. So pay attention to what you eat. Make sure it's the right stuff. How do we know it's the right stuff? Well, in podcast 249, we discuss meal timing. And that'll give you more information about what exactly to eat at what time away from the workout. And then in podcast 374, we talk about pre-workout energy ideas. So that's even more information as well. If you want to geek out and totally be nerdy, there's a really good book called Nutrient Timing by John Ivy, I-V-Y. And again, the book title is Nutrient Timing. I love that book. It's one of my favorite ones. I recommend that all the time. Okay. And then if you want help, so if you listen to podcast 249, 374, and if you want to nerd out on the Nutrient Timing book and you need help putting all that information together, of course, we're always happy to help with nutrition plans and stuff. But I think it's fun just to kind of know that our food can have such a significant effect that it'll even affect like our sweat patterns. It'll even affect our smell. So what you eat truly, truly, truly matters. Okay? So just some cool, fun information. Hopefully you guys like hearing this kind of weird stuff. So give you some food for thought, and you can go check out those other podcasts, 249 and 374, and learn even more. Okay? Cool. Okay, if you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutaliron@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.